Hello, my name is Al Diaz, IT Process Improvement Director for IT, San Francisco Department of Public Health. Welcome to Lean Principles. My goal for you today is to increase your productivity and reduce your stress utilizing Lean Principles. You're going to notice that this deck is also going to be your reference guide. So some of the slides may have lots of words. Today, here are our topics. We're going to have presentation of our IT Lean roadmap. We're going to cover what is Lean, what does Lean have to do with IT, and who decides value. How can we practice respect and humility at work? Why is the Lean principle of just-in-time and continuous flow so important? Why does Lean embrace technology to improve processes? Why does Lean focus on systematic improvements? Other topics we're going to talk about today is the 8 types of waste and where they spell out downtime. We're also going to talk about a set of questions that are going to help us during our daily walk at work in solving projects and communication problems. We're going to talk about the improvement kata. We're going to talk about what is PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act, PDSA. Why are Pareto charts and cause and effect diagrams so important to your project success, as well as check sheets and checklists? So we begin our lean transformation. So let's talk one slide on lean history. Tachi Ono, for years working at the shop, developed a considerable amount of experience. And with that experience, he believed that working alongside his workers, he could understand them and he could understand the hardships that they had to endure, as well as the waste, the different types of waste that did not allow them to do their job. He also understood machineries and systems, and he wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. So he is considered the father of the Toyota production system. Now, when you consider his years of experience, and you consider that he was not afraid to get his hands dirty, and you consider that he worked alongside his workers, if you fast forward to today and you look at this article and it talks about the CTO of Facebook telling people, I compel CTOs worldwide, no matter your discipline, to get your hands dirty with the technologies you are evaluating. So he's basically saying the same thing that Ono told us many years ago. And when you read that and you put it together, you understand that the cultural history of respect comes in many different types of forms and fashions. So when people ask, what is one possible definition of respect? Knowing the technology, collaborating with workers, trying out new things, getting your hands dirty. To me, that's a great definition of respect. And the best way to learn that is at the shop floor, what we call the gemba. That's where the learning takes place. I like to say where the customer meets the problem. Here, there's a bunch of people working in the gemba solving problems. These are knowledge workers. Here's a bunch of people having a meeting. Solving problems and having meetings are two very different things in Lean. So the message is the gemba, the real place, the place where value is created. Now, there's a lot of people in our organization that practice Agile, and I'm one of them. I am an Agile practitioner. And while there are very different heritages, there are many common principles between Agile and Lean. So I encourage you to do your own research. So what do? We practice lean daily. We practice continuous improvement and the elimination of waste and hardship. So what does lean have to do with information technologies? Well, in information technologies, we want to deliver IT services that are predictable. We like predictable outcomes. And lean teaches us that standard work produces predictable outcomes, results, and alike. So in lean, we talk about value. And at DPH, we follow the same lean principle, right? That the customer decides value. As knowledge workers, customers are more than just the people that utilize our final service. There are people along the value stream that are our customers. Some people call them stakeholders, but nevertheless, we have different types of customers. But at DPH, everyone has a voice, and it has a very important voice. So there are different ways that people can communicate, such as the voice of the employee, right? And then our daily, weekly, and monthly voice, the voice of the process, where we talk to our bosses and supervisors about what major wastes or major defects we see in the value stream. So when we talk about customer value and we talk about who decides value, the customer decides value. When you look at this particular slide during the class, we have a class discussion on this slide. Because here we talk about, consider the question, when the barista writes your name on a cup of your favorite double espresso, are they adding value to your drink? Are they adding value? And notice at the bottom picture, a machine went ahead and put the name and even the time that you had to drink. So there, has a machine gone ahead and replaced the worker? No, not really. What they've done is they've replaced the repetitive work that the worker has to do every time they have to write the name down. And now the worker has more time to spend with Robert and, talk to Robert and create that barista relationship. Sure, they can do it when they write it down, but if a machine writes it down for them, they can have maybe more FaceTime or more time to talk, a few more seconds that add up exponentially. So the customer decides value. And when we talk about how does lean embrace technology, well, you notice in the previous slide, we talked about the person going ahead and writing the Robert's name or the machine going ahead and doing it for them as part of the original order. So, why does lean embrace technology? Because we want our people to do higher level work because we recognize that repetitive work, um, if it can be automated, is a plus for the human being. So, in class, we have a class discussion about this. So, why does lean embrace technology? Well, again, optimization, right? Automation. So even as technology advances, we're always going to need people. So there's a video that we play in class, uh, so it has the 5 common lean myths, and I encourage you to look for it. So in this particular slide, we talk about respect and humility and how we practice that. So one way to practice respect is I don't pretend to know. I don't pretend I know. If I don't know, I don't know, and I'm going to do my very best to get back to you at a certain time, at a certain date. And the way that I practice humility at work is that I coach one step ahead of the person that's on the other side of me or the team that's on the other side of me, right? So if I meet someone for the very first time, they're a brand new employee and they don't have a lot of experience in lean, I'm not going to speak down to them. I'm going to talk to them one step from where they're at, and that is humility and shows them respect. So now we talk about different types of waste in lean, the way we collectively use the terms to describe wasteful practices or activities. So the first one is muda, right? The second one is mura, and the third one is muri. And here you can see a picture. The first one is overburden, right? The truck's overburden. The second one, right? There's variation or there's unevenness, variation or unevenness. and overburdened. Too many of those on the truck. The third one right here, you see the waste. There's a lot of space in between. So here everything's working, systematically within standard work in a predictable fashion. So when you're on a full flight, that's lean. Things are working the way they're supposed to. Um, so here's another picture that depicts all three. Okay, so the following slides are utilized by copyright called Creative Commons, as long as we give them the copyright on every slide. We're allowed to use these slides, and we're going to talk about the problem. So the problem with this training today, whether you received it in class live or whether you're listening to it right now, is that no matter how good it is, a model just can't take the place of actually learning the behavior. You cannot explain something. It's just impossible. You have to create, not only do you have to learn the behavior, but then you have to create the habits that go with the behaviors. So hoping to create different behavior by explaining something or trying to convince somebody of it generally doesn't work. So there's a challenge in developing a lean management or a lean mindset. So long-term organizational survival, right? You've got the manager trying to pull up the associate, right? So consistent routines in leadership and management will help create a spirit of entrepreneurship within the organization, well beyond the tenure of those in the organizations that, may want to go ahead and maintain the status quo. Movimiento es vida, they say in the World War Z movie. You've got to move. You've got to move. So we're going to deal with only one question today in the essence of time. So what are the unseen managerial routines and thinking that lie behind the Toyota success with continuous improvement? So we're going to deal with the first question today. All right, so what you're looking at on the screen is the improvement kata model. So the word kata is from martial arts. It means forms, right? So it means repetition. So it means routine. So it's something that we want to do, right? Because in Toyota, they found that they found a common scientific pattern or a thinking or a behavior to the way that they were improving things. And you can see it, and we're going to go through each one. So the first one is get the direction or get the challenge, right? So sometimes we call it the where we want to head to, right? The top of Mount Everest, get the direction. What is the challenge? Where are we headed? And the second thing is that we have to grasp the current situation. So you may have heard this before, but when we walk into a meeting, when we walk into a get together, we want to know, okay, what is the challenge here? And then the second thing we're asking ourselves is, what's the current situation? So obviously, we need to establish the next target condition. In other words, in project management and PMI and waterfall and agile, sometimes they call it the next milestone. Sometimes they call it, in lean, they call it the target condition. Sometimes they call it, the next step in the evolution. You have a minimal viable product, then you have version 0.9, version 1.0. So the interim step, the milestone step. So establish the next target condition. And then what do? Well, in lean, we conduct experiments to get there, right? PDCA, PDCA. You're going to hear me say that a lot during this class, right? Plan, do, check, act. Plan, do, SA, study, act, PDSA. And we conduct experiments. Some people call them projects. Some people call them, fail, fast types of initiatives. But in lean, we say we conduct experiments to get there, to the next target condition, on our way to the ultimate goal. So here you see that as a manager or as a subject matter expert or as someone, I want to go ahead and think systematically. I want to think systemic improvement, PDCA, PDCA. So I want you to study that slide. Because when we propose change, let me make this picture a little smaller so we can read this. When we propose change many times, we need to understand that as we go through those changes are iterative in the way we get them done. That's very much in line with Agile and very much in line with spiral methodology, extreme programming, and any type of methodology that is cyclical in nature. So the improvement kata model, right? We found again, right here are all the steps, right? So we want to set the challenge, right? What's the challenge? We walk into a meeting. What's the challenge? We're looking at a project. What's the challenge? We're looking at the entire value stream. What's the challenge? Well, what's our current situation? And what's the next interim step? We have to set the next target condition, and we conduct experiments. PDCA our way to the next target condition. So there's lots of types of scientific methods to get there. And we understand that. And in our lean journey, we don't want to be dogmatic about the methodologies that we want to introduce. We understand that we have to be practical in nature. However, we want to stay true to lean. So here are the 5 questions. Hopefully, we'll have the laminated versions of them, and we encourage you to study more. So remember, we PDCA our way to the next target condition. So in this class, as we're learning all this, we may be thinking, oh, wow, everywhere I look, I can see waste. That lady took too long to give me my order. All of a sudden, I'm done, but everyone around me is not done. Hurry up and wait. I see waste. Well, we don't become the waste police. We don't go around and sit around and look for waste, because what happens when we fix something, here we go, we're fixing this area of the balloon. We create these other big problems, these other consequences, inadvertent consequences, because we haven't looked at the problem systemically. We haven't looked at the entire value stream. So let's go through these slides really quick. This is an introduction to PDCA. I'm not going to read them to you, but here are different reasons why you would, right? So different reasons that you can use PDCA in many different places, right? As a group, hey, what's our goal? That's the P, right? What's our goal? If I'm in a group, I want to know, okay, what are the activities? What's to do? What's to do? I'm part of a group. What's the goal? And what's the activities? And did it work? Remember, we're doing small incremental experiments as we go along. This is not a big waterfall project that we're sitting around um, planning for a bunch of months. We're not doing that. And then, what did we learn? What did we learn? And then what do we do next? What action or adjustment do we have to do? And if you are in the role of the coach, or in the role of a subject matter expert, or even in the role of an individual contributor, this is a great slide to print out and have handy. So PDCA, again, look at it from a PMI point of view. We plan, we execute, we monitor, and we control. So when to use it, here's some ideas of when to use it. I encourage you to print out the slide, in continuous improvement projects, process trails, displaying data, different types of tools that use PDCA. And we're going to learn about those tools during our time together in other classes. So I encourage you to print these slides. This is the plan slide again, right? What is the purpose? What is the plan? What are we investigating? And then the do, right? So here, the team understands what the real problem is based on data, not opinions, and defining and implementing a solution plan. Then we're checking, we're validating, we're monitoring during the check stage, and we're finding countermeasures to further improve the solution that we proposed and took action on in the first place. We may be resolving any issue by finding countermeasures to ensure solution plans continue, right? So in PMI, we might say mitigations to risk. So our risk plan and mitigations to risk. And then we adjust or take action. So we always have to adjust, because when you're doing small PDCA cycles, you are adjusting. You are failing fast. Fail fast. Don't take 3 months to fail. So here's an introduction to check sheets and checklists. So managers can use a check sheet in many different types of situations. I like them to tally errors or to tally waste. So you can see this particular example, but for me, if I'm at a call center, I certainly want to tally the areas where I'm measuring our group. so that I can see what the frequencies of the problem are and I can help the people there, because there's no question there's a great deal of hardship being created when you have to take calls all day long and systems don't work well, or the script isn't written well, or situations you are encountering you were not trained for. All those things can be improved with a check sheet within an IT environment. Check sheets are different than checklists, right? So a checklist, I can use a checklist. Yeah, here's the checklist on the right. Battery charge, set up airframe, inspect the airframe for defects. It's a checklist. I'm going to use this on the way because I'm going to pre-fly a 747. I have a checklist. But here a check sheet, right? So simplify and error-proof data gathering. So this is a great tool, again, very good tool to identify frequencies of errors within a process. So types of check sheets, right? Tally charts, you can see them there. Capturing data related to customer complaints, defects of products, defects of processes. Here's a medical example. I encourage you to print out the slide and take a good read at it. It's a great medical example. And now we talk about intro to Pareto charts. So when to use Pareto charts, right? The analysis is based on the Pareto principle. I'm sure you've heard it before, the 80-20 rule. So it requires identifying organizational problems as they're ranked in order, right? So when we talk about the check sheet and the tallies of frequency, you can see the relationship between that and the Pareto chart, because the Pareto chart allows us to rank the order from the most to the least severe. So to organize problems into cohesive categories, facts, not necessarily opinions. So here in this slide, we have the SME conduct a Pareto analysis and measure and compare the impacts. As the manager focuses on the outcomes and the relentless push for small incremental improvements, hopefully, daily at some point, but weekly. And we want to measure that as we try to go ahead and relieve the pain of the daily firefighting. So here's a Pareto chart, and in the next class, we're going to learn how to actually do one. So next, let's talk about the cause and effect diagram. Some people call it a fishbone diagram. So managers use the cause and effect diagram in process improvement to identify all of the contributing root causes. Boy, that's a mouthful, isn't it? In the next slide, you'll see exactly what the fishbone diagram looks like. And in the next class, we'll actually be doing them, lots of exercises in class. And you'll have some templates you can take with you. But the bottom line is for you to focus on the benefits, right? Constructing the fishbone diagram is not only easy, but it's a very strong visual tool for organizing critical thinking. So here we have a fishbone for bad coffee. The problem is always stated at the front of the fishbone, at the fish head. And if we have bad coffee, we can see that we have problems in procedures, equipment, people, and materials. So eventually everything adds up to bad coffee. Here we have another example of poor quality. So here we have poor quality, and we have management, raw materials, working conditions, technology, machines, workers. So we can see that from a worker's point of view, well, if we don't have training, we're going to have poor quality. And if we hire people with not the right level of experience and qualifications, we're going to have poor quality. And perhaps all of a sudden we realize that we're working our people way too much and there's fatigue and they're getting sick. And perhaps they just are new to the job and don't have the work experience and they haven't received our training. And we sit there and we wonder, oh my gosh, why are we like experiencing bad quality? Well, this is going to tell you the root causes behind it. So root cause analysis is about asking why, why are we in the current situation and how did this happen? What are our assumptions about the current situation? Our assumptions of the current situation may be wrong. We may have to take action. Let you read the rest. So in strategy development, we often ask, right, what can close the gap? So we can do at least the cause and effect. So remember to look for the causes. Look for the causes for why we're having the gaps. There's Mr. Ono, and Mr. Ono really believed in the five whys. And there's a huge amount of volume of data around the five whys and the one H and all the rest. But the bottom line is he was saying pursue the root cause consistently. Most people, they really get taught the five whys incorrectly. He's like, well, ask why 5 times. Well, to what purpose? They don't really understand that the purpose of the five whys is to pursue the root cause consistently. So we write down the problem and we ask why the problem exists. We may not have to stop at 5. We might just do 3. We may do 8. It depends. We have to always go and see. We have to go to the Gemba. But the hardest part about the five whys is to stay on the specific problem. Most of the time what happens is that we go and sway. We look at different problems. So here we are. Here's the five whys, right? As a leader, we take action on the five whys via countermeasures. So project manager gives you a status and the project's going to be late. Like, why? Well, equipment is not reaching the customer site where they're required. Why is that? Well, employees are not available to receive the order. Why? Well, workers have low morale. And why would the workers have low morale? Well, they don't have the right skills. Why don't they have the right skills? Let's find out. Well, management has not invested in training. And then we ask the next why. Why hasn't management invested in training? Well, it's not a priority. So we keep asking why. Why isn't it a priority to invest in our people that don't have the right skills and seem to have low morale? Well, that's because relationship with top managers is non-existent. They're non-existent. Top managers and regular folk, they have no relationship. Oh, I get it. So because there's no communication, there's low morale, and low morale people don't show up because they don't care, and my project is late. Now I know what to do. That's how you do the five whys. So this is the end of our training. These are our backup slides. You can look at them on your own. I really appreciate you being here today. And if you have any questions, you can always email me at al.diaz@sfdph.org. Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a great day, and see you next time.